Soraya Jade Beavis was born on August 17, 1992, in Norwich, England, and grew up surrounded by professional wrestling. In 2005, at the age of 13, Soraya made her debut for her family's World Association of Wrestling promotion. Her look and talent made tons of people notice her, including WWE International Talent Scouts. She would eventually sign with WWE in 2011, becoming Paige, and she began wrestling in its developmental system, debuting in Florida Championship Wrestling in 2012. FCW became NXT in her tenure in the developmental branch, and she would make a statement, becoming the inaugural NXT Women's Champion. When it was time for her to get called up to the main roster in 2014, she stunned the world on her main roster debut when she won the Divas Championship, defeating AJ Lee on the April 7th edition of Raw. She was only 21 years old at the time, making her the youngest Divas champion in history. She is also the only woman to ever hold both the Divas and NXT Women's Championships simultaneously. Unfortunately, she suffered a neck injury in 2017 that ultimately led to her retirement as an in-ring worker in 2018. She was only 25. She has remained under contract with WWE and served many different roles with the company, including SmackDown GM and manager of Absolution, which was the team of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Paige has gone on to accomplish a lot out of the ring as well, and in 2019, the biographical feature film Fighting With My Family was released in theaters. Dwayne Johnson served as a producer and was inspired to make this movie happen after watching a 2012 documentary on Paige with her family. More importantly, outside the ring, she has been open about her struggles with alcohol and recently celebrated 2 years of sobriety this past October, being a true inspiration to anyone out there suffering from addiction. What could have been of Paige's amazing career had it not been cut short due to injury? Will she one day return to the ring? Anything is possible, but the undeniable fact is that she has had a tremendous impact to progress women's wrestling, to get over the diva era and into what it is today. And that's why today, for Women's History Month, we will be doing a figure history of Paige. Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillVille. Women's wrestling lives here. So to round out Women's History Month, I wanted to do another special video. As y'all know, I did a figure history of AJ Lee, who was groundbreaking in her own right, but I had to do a figure history of Paige on top of that because this is another female superstar that really changed the game for the women and really shaped the women's division into what it is today. Now, on top of that, I did some research on Paige, and I found some pretty obscure toys of hers that we're going to review first. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at some of those obscure toys of Paige. So let's start off by covering this really fun but truly obscure item of Paige's. Now, this was released by Jada Toys in 2017, and it's part of the Metals Diecast series. Now, turning it around, you can see that it has the rest of the series, and this is great to have some female representation in the line, and that's awesome. Now turning it back around, we got a nice little photo of Paige on the front. Pretty cool box, pretty cool to keep men on card. However, truth being told, I made some slits and cuts to make this unboxing easy, so let's take it out and get a closer look. Alright, and then she should just pop right forward. Okay, so she is heavy. I mean, she's die-cast metal, so, you know. And she also comes with this little display stand here, so let's take that out and see how it looks. This is definitely unique and pretty fun. I love different things like this. I mean, I just got a Sasha Banks monster truck. So, awesome. She's got a little hole in her foot and a peg on this stand. So, you put it on, and there we have it, this die-cast metal Paige. Now, this is freaking awesome. So, let's take a closer look. I mean, obviously, this is very cartoony, but it resembles her pretty well. And it looks like the arm has articulation, but it's really not wanting to move, and I don't want to break it. So it does have a little bit of a swivel at the hip. But yeah, this thing rocks. I freaking love this. This is one of my favorite pieces in my collection now. But now let's move on to something a little less obscure and a lot more normal, and that's her Funko Pop. So now let's take a look at the Paige Funko Pop released in 2018, and this thing is freaking cool. And when I got it in the mail, I got a rush of nostalgia and sentiment, because turning this around, you see the rest of the women in this Total Divas collection. And this Nikki Bella Funko Pop in particular was probably my first piece of women's wrestling merchandise that kind of started all of this, come to think of it. I mean, this was a few years ago. I was with my daughter, and we were at this video game store, and I knew I had to have it, and I got it. And yeah, so that's pretty special to me. But that being said, let's take a closer look at this page. Now, we are going to open this up. This isn't the easiest Funko Pop to come by, but I have to tell you, it is a lot easier to come by than that AJ Lee. So, she isn't a bobblehead, so she does not come with a display stand, which is okay because she should stand up rather nicely. There we go. Let's get the box out of the way here. And taking a closer look, you can tell this is Paige. Now, she does kind of have an AJ Lee aura to her, and it's very similar to the AJ Lee. But I do like that they added these little blue tips to her hair color. And then looking closely at her shirt, she's got the Paige logo. And then those shorts are definitely iconic for Paige. So this is definitely a cool Funko Pop. I'll probably display it in the box because it looks so cool that way. But either way, this is a very cool addition to my Funko Pop collection that is growing in women's wrestling Funkos. But yeah, so this is the Funko Pop. Pretty cool. Now, when I saw the Funko Pop and that die-cast metal figure, I knew I had to have them. The Funko Pop might not really be too obscure, but that die-cast metal little figurine, it kind of is. Now, with those aside, let's dive right into her figure history, starting with her debut figure. Elite Series 34, released in 2015. This attire is from when Paige surprisingly made her main roster debut on the April 7th, 2014 episode of Raw, the night after WrestleMania 30. She was congratulating Divas champion AJ Lee on her successful title defense at the pay-per-view event, after which AJ slapped Paige, challenging her to an impromptu match for the championship, which Paige actually won, making her the youngest Divas champion in history at the age of 21. She was also the first Diva to win the title in her debut match and the only woman to hold both the Divas and NXT Women's Championships at the same time. So I am a loose figure collector primarily, but there's very few times where we get a women's wrestling figure that displays such a historic event for the women, and this is one of them. And this is such a cool figure, and one that I highly suggest you get mint on card, because this signifies the night that she beat AJ Lee to win that Divas title. And what's awesome is the inclusion of that NXT Women's title, the old school one, which is great, and also that Divas title. So in the way she's displayed in the box, I mean, this is just freaking beautiful, honestly. Now, I do have another one that we'll look closer at to get a look at the details. But yeah, if you're a mint on card collector or a fan of women's wrestling, the women's division, anything in that matter, you need to get this mint on card because this thing is just gorgeous. So, taking a closer look at the figure itself, we once again have that face scan. But like I mentioned, the makeup's applied a little differently. She has some purple eyeshadow this time. And she does have that little silver piercing once again. But yeah, great scan. This time with her upper body, she has these straps kind of crossing that are molded on with these little silver studs molded on too. And that looks stunning and it looks great. Her shorts are the same, just painted a little differently. And this time around, she does have the laces molded on. And they were molded on the other one, but these really stand out because of the black background. And also this belt with the silver and black. I mean, that's just so cool. Now, she does have black knee pads, black socks, and then those little short Doc Martens with the brown bottoms once again. But yeah, she also has black fingernails, which is a cool little addition. But this figure, as cool as it is loose, I mean, the mint on card version of this figure is what you want to go for to display because it is such a significant moment in women's wrestling. Basic Series 57, released in 2015. This attire is from SmackDown on February 19th, 2015, where Paige defeated Cameron. She was feuding with the Bellas at the time as they were guest commentators for the match. I have to say that looking at mint on card images of these Paige figures, a lot of you will probably think they're all the same, or they're all pretty similar. But actually, they're pretty unique in their own ways. I mean, sure, they use the same scan 4 times out of the 6. However, the way that they apply the makeup detail on the face makes them pretty different across the board. So I just wanted to say that as we take a closer look, it's pretty cool because these figures have more of a variety than I thought. So taking a closer look at Paige's face, This looks great. I mean, this looks just like her. And they even have a little silver stud on her lip, signifying a lip ring. The hair mold works perfectly. It's that jet black color, goes over each shoulder. Now, unfortunately, with that top, it is painted over that basic bra mold that we see a million times, and I can't stand when they paint the design right on top. And because it is a solid black color, it's pretty noticeable. I do like the inclusion of the silver in the appearance of the zipper. That's very cool. And also, her gloves have the little Paige logo intricately painted on each one, so that's pretty neat. Now, moving on to her lower body, this is where it really stands out in my opinion. These shorts are an awesome mold, and this belt is raised, and the silver is actually bumpy, really signifying those little spikes. So a lot of molding going on in that belt, which is cool. She has knee pads, these high black socks, and then her signature little short Doc Martens, I guess you'd call them, with brown on the bottom. So yeah, she had a pretty good start to her figures, but it only gets better from here, as you'll see. Basic Series 66, released in 2016. This attire is from Raw on November 23rd, 2015, which was a rematch from the Survivor Series match the night before with Charlotte for the Divas Championship. The finish on this night was a double countout after Paige snapped on Charlotte, viciously attacking her and thus disbanding Team PCB. Of course, at this time, the women's basics and the women's elites, they all had the same articulation. But that did make her Paige Elite more special because it came with the NXT Women's title in the Divas Championship. So, unlike the AJ Lee Elite that really didn't come with any accessories, that was rightfully so. Now, as you can see from the start, this is very different than what we saw before, simply because there's some blue added in her hair, and this is the only time we get this. Also, her face has a different appearance, and upon further makeup inspection, it's because her eyelashes aren't as prominent, and also her black eyeliner is not really applied. So this is probably my least favorite Paige scan. Even though it's the same scan, I guess I can say it's my least favorite makeup application that they did. But it's a cool figure because they included that blue, and her top is that painted over sports bra mold, but it's hard to tell because it represents a torn t-shirt. This is my house. It's got the Paige logo on the back, which is definitely a cool addition. We once again see those shorts that she has, this time in all black with just a silver belt. And this is the first time we get this fishnet stocking painted on there, and I think that looks great. Also, she has these black knee pads, black socks, and this time just a solid black all throughout her boot with no brown sole. So, this is a pretty cool basic. Zombie Series 1, released in 2016. This attire is from, I'm just kidding, this is actually the abstract but awesomely unique Zombies line that lasted 3 series. Other women in this line were Sasha Banks in Series 2 and Charlotte in Series 3. Side note, Asuka was released in a similar line called Monsters that only lasted 1 wave. Alright, so before we take a closer look at the Zombies figure, let's take a moment of silence for that line because I loved it. And it's pretty cool that we got her, Sasha, and Charlotte. And then plus that Monsters line, it was only 1 wave, but we did get a cool Asuka. Now, being a horror movie fan and a big, huge fan of the Universal Monsters, this is like right up my alley. But it is a very niche figure. Now, I'll show you why. Taking a closer look, obviously, the zombie Paige is completely white. I had a heck of a time finding a background that she would show up on. Now her hair is a little stringy, it's black, she has these purple circles around her eyes. There's no detail on her lips really, but she does have this little blood dripping on her chin. And her arms are just that pale white, no markings, anything like that. The top is a normal Paige top, which is kind of funny. And then the bottoms are normal Paige bottoms with that paint detail, it's pretty cool. And her legs is when it really gets zombified. We have a little raspberry on her right knee. Little laceration on her left leg. And then what really stands out is she has a chunk missing from her calf, like someone took a bite out of it. And that gruesome detail is pretty cool. And obviously her little boots, it looks like her socks were rolled down, so that's a cool detail. And then her boots, yeah, they're a little different than before, and they're a little musty looking, so like I said, I mean, this is a very niche figure. It's not for everybody, but I love the Zombies and the Monster line, so this is definitely a cool one for me. Elite 71 Collector's Edition Target Exclusive, released in 2019. This attire is based off of her December 11th, 2017 Raw appearance, where she and the rest of Absolution, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, defeated the team of Mickie James, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. So I have to first off say that this figure is a work of art. It is an absolutely beautiful figure and one of the best figures that Mattel has ever released. I freaking love this figure. I just had to get that aside because this thing, every time I look at it, it just wows me. So this time we can see that she does have a different scan than what we've previously seen. And this is actually my favorite scan of hers. I think it looks just like her. Absolutely gorgeous. The hair sculpt is also a little different than what we saw before, this time having a little more volume to the top there. She also has this awesome entrance jacket with so many molded details on it. These little silver studs molded on the back, and then even these straps hanging down. She has a little choker necklace painted on, and then taking this off, not very hard to do, thank God. Ooh. She has this top. Now, it is just a painted over sports bra top, but they do a good job blending it in with that Paige logo. And on the back, the Scream is back with a little tattoo. Nice additional detail under that jacket. Also, you'll see the inclusion of her newer tattoos on her forearm and then her thumb. The shorts are the shorts that we've seen in her previous figure releases, this time in all black, which I actually think this looks really smart. I think it looks really cool. And then she has those fishnets painted on again, which is nice to see. Black knee pads, black socks, and this time with the little Doc Marten boots. If you look close, it's almost like the gold is painted in a stitch pattern. So, yeah, I mean, I have to say that this figure, like I mentioned, this thing is a gorgeous figure and truly one of the best Mattel's ever made. I can't say enough good about this. Basic Series 105, released in 2020. This attire is from a truly historic night where Paige defeated Emma to become the first NXT Women's Champion. It occurred on the June 20th, 2013 NXT tapings, but aired on July 24th, 2013, which is actually the date that WWE recognizes. So now let's take a look at the final figure released by Mattel of Paige, at least at the time of this recording. Now, this was in a basic line, but it's important to note that she continued to have this elite articulation, which is nice because in the current day women's basics, that elite articulation is gone. Now, they also went back to the scan that they used in her first three figures for this one, and it actually works really well because this figure represents early in her career NXT Paige, so I'm glad they went back with her older scan, considering that Collector's Edition Paige represented a modern day one, so it's good to go back to this one to really nail the time period that they were trying to get. And this time with that scan, once again, they just applied the makeup a little differently to make it look a little different, but it works. It looks good. Same hair. That top has those straps once again with little silver accents painted on. And this time she has black paint between her chest. Her lower half, we see those shorts once again, which look awesome with that silver belt. Looks good. Black knee pads, black socks, and all black Doc Martens. So I know this is such a simple Paige figure, especially considering that elite we just looked at. But this works, and it really does represent a historical night and a historical moment in Paige's career. So I'm glad we got this figure. Even if it's just in basic form, it's a cool figure. And now it's time for me to rank Paige's figures from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, this is my personal opinion, so keep that in mind, and make sure you let me know in the comments what figure is your favorite of Paige's. It's also important to note that she really didn't have any bad figures in my opinion. With that being said, number 6 is Basic Series 57. At number 5, we have Basic Series 105. At number 4, we have the awesome Zombies figure. I just love how unique it is. At number 3, we have Basic Series 66. Even though I don't think it's the best scan, I actually think it's pretty unique and cool. At number 2, we have Elite Series 34. Now, if we're ranking men on card figures, it completely changes this countdown because this one, men on card, just pops. But the figures themselves, this is my number 2. And number 1, we have Elite 71 Collector's Edition Paige. Like I said before, this figure is truly a work of art. It is just a gorgeous, beautiful, amazing figure of Paige, and I absolutely love it. So, needless to say, Paige has done so much for women's wrestling and progressing it into what it is today. I can't say enough about her contributions, and especially in such a short amount of time. Now, is there a chance that Paige does return to the ring someday? There is. You can never say never. And I really hope that her neck injury recovers and she does return, because Paige is simply amazing. Thanks for stopping by LumberJillVille. Women's wrestling lives here. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and more importantly, before Women's History Month comes to an end, make sure you do some research and read and discover how some of these important women have shaped wrestling into what it is today. Have a good night, y'all.